Let's go ahead and practice evaluating some numerical expressions that have rational numbers together. So for each of these, we're going to use our order of operations, but specifically, we're going to be having some problems that deal with some decimals and fractions, so different types of rational numbers. For number one, let's go ahead and start with multiplication here. This is 9 times this 5.7. We generally just ignore the decimals and just multiply, so we'll do 57 times 9. So that's going to be 63, carry the 6. 9 times 5 is 45, plus the 6 is going to be 51. So we know this is going to be 51.3, just because we have to put the decimal back in there. So this is going to be 64.3 minus 51.3, and then plus 14.6. Between subtraction and addition here, the subtraction is going to get to go first, because we're going to go left to right. So if we go ahead and subtract here, I'm going to do 64.3, make sure we line up the decimals, minus 51.3. Oh, this one's going to come out pretty nice, 0, 3, 1. So we're looking at just 13, but I'm going to write it as 13.0 just because if we're adding decimals, we're going to need to line them up anyway. And then finally, just adding these two. You might be able to do this one mentally just because you don't have to do much carrying or anything like that. 13 plus 14 is going to be 27. 0 plus 6 is 6, so it's going to be 27.6. So this right here should be our final answer. So I'm going to go ahead and write that here as 27.6. All right, cool. Let's check out number 2. For number 2, for this one, let's see, out of all these operations here, I think we're going to start with is the power. So 2 to the third power, that's 2 times 2 times 2, that's going to be 8. So this is 9.5 plus 6.4 divided by 4, and then minus 8. Okay, so if you need to write that on the side, feel free to do so, but that's 2 times 2 times 2. Between these three operations, division is going to go next. So for this one, maybe I'll write this one out, 6.4 divided by 4. 4 goes into 6 once. 1 times 4 is 4. We have a remainder of 2. Let's put a decimal and bring this 4 down. 4 into 24 is going to be 6 times. 6 times 4 is 24, and the remainder here is 0. So 6.4 divided by 4 is 1.6. We can write 9.5 plus 1.6 minus 8. Between addition and subtraction, let's go with addition here. We're just going to go left to right because they're equally important. If we go ahead and add these, I'll write this one on the side to be extra clear. Line up the decimals, 9.5 plus 1.6. That's going to be 11, carry the 1, bring the decimal straight down. And I think that is going to be 11, right? So I think we're looking at 11.1, then minus 8. I'll write this as 8.0 though, just to keep it clear and consistent. And then subtracting here shouldn't be too bad. 11 minus 8 is 3 because we can just subtract the whole numbers. Then 1 minus 0 is just going to be 1. So we're really looking at an answer here of 3.1. So I'm going to go ahead and write that right over here. And that should be our answer. All right. For number 3, let's check this one out here. Out of all the operations, I think the parentheses is going to have to go first. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to write equals 5.52 minus, and then let's go ahead and figure out what is this 2.85 plus 1.38. I recommend just kind of writing it out just because we have a lot of carrying to do. 5 plus 8 is going to be 13, carry the 1. 1 plus 8 is 9. 9 plus 3 is going to be 12, carry the 1. Bring the decimal straight down. 1 plus 2 plus 1 is going to be 4. So we're looking at 4.23 here. Okay, let's go ahead and add 4.29 after. Between subtraction and addition, we should do the subtraction first. Just go left to right. For here, I'm going to go ahead. I think we're going to have to do some borrowing, so I'm going to write it down. 5.52 minus 4.23. If we go ahead and subtract here, let's see. We're going to have to borrow, make this a 4, make this a 12. 12 minus 3 is 9. 4 minus 2 is 2. 5 minus 4 is going to be 1. So we're looking at 1.29 plus this 4.29. All right, so we're just adding decimals here for this last step. And so if we go ahead and add, I'm going to go ahead and write on the side 1.29 plus this 4.29. 9 plus 9 is 18, carry the 1. 1 plus 2 plus 2 is 5. 1 plus 4 is 5. So I think our final answer here is going to be 5.58. So I'm going to go ahead and write that in both of these locations and highlight these green because I think this would be our answer. Okay, cool. Let's check out number 4. For number 4, this one, out of all the different operations here, I think we're going to start with the power. So we have this 2.3 raised to the second power. So I'm going to go ahead and write equals 9.42 minus, and let's do 2.3 squared. So that one I can't do in my head. So I'm going to multiply 23 times 23. That's going to be 9 and 6. This is going to be 6 and 4. You could put a placeholder here. This is going to be 9, 2, and 5. So we're looking at 529, but we need 2 decimal places, so it's going to be 5.29. Let's go ahead and add the 17.71, then divide by 7. Okay, out of all these operations, what would go next? Well, I think division is going to be the next most important thing, so let's go ahead and just copy 9.42 minus 5.29, and let's figure out what this 17.71 divided by 7 is. So 17.71, let's go ahead and divide that by 7. 7 goes into 17 2 times, that's 14. We have a remainder of 3. Bring down the 7 here. 7 times 5 is going to be 35. We have a remainder of 2. And then bring down the 1 here. 7 into 21 is 3 times. Let's go ahead and put a 3 here. 3 times 7 is 21. We have a remainder of 0. So this is going to be 2.53. Between subtraction and addition, let's go ahead and do the subtraction here. Okay, just go from left to right because they're equally important. Running out of space here, but I think we have enough room. Let's do 9.42 minus 5.29. If we go ahead and borrow here, that'll be a 3, that'll be a 12. 12 minus 9 is going to be 3. 3 minus 2 is 1. 9 minus this 5 is going to be 4. So we're looking at 4.13 plus 2.53. And if you go ahead and add these, I don't think we need to do any carrying, which is nice. So you can add the whole numbers, which is going to be 6, and you can add the decimals, which is going to be 0.66, I believe. So I think that is going to be our answer. It's going to be 6.66. Okay, so right there would be the most simplified version of this expression, or the evaluated value here. Okay. So there you had 4 different problems dealing with decimals. Let's check out a few different problems where we have to deal with fractions here. So for number 5, between these 3 operations, let's go ahead and multiply first here. So if we go ahead and multiply 4 times 3 over 5 times 8, if we go ahead and do that, that's going to be 12 over 40. Then if we go ahead and simplify this by their GCF, we can divide these both by 4, and we're going to get 3 over 10, okay? So we can write 3/4 plus, and this is going to be 3/10 minus 1/10 here. Okay, so between these addition and subtraction, let's take care of the addition. When's the first time that 4 and 10 meet? Well, I think it's going to be 20. So we can do times 5 times 5. That's going to be 15 over 20. And then for this one to get 20, let's do times 2 times 2. So it's going to be 6 over 20. If we add here, we're going to get 21 over 20. 21 over 20. Now, instead of writing minus 1/10, we need common denominators anyway. So these both meet at 20 for the first time. So let's go ahead and take away 2 over 20. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully it makes sense that 1 over 10 is equivalent or the same as 2 over 20. Then you can just go ahead and subtract here the 21 over 20 minus 2 over 20, and that'll be 19 over 20. So this right here would be our solution. So go ahead and say this right here is our answer. All right, let's check out number 6. For number 6, out of these different operations, we should start with the power here. So on the side here, I'm just going to write it out. This is 7 over 3, and there's 2 of them, so multiplying together, this will be 49 over 9. Okay, so if we go ahead and write this down, it's going to be 13 over 18 minus 8 over 9 divided by 1 over 6 plus 49 over 9. Now, between these operations, we're going to go with division, okay? If we go with division here, we're going to have 13 over 18 minus, let's see, we're going to have to turn this into a multiplication problem. So we're going to go ahead and multiply by the reciprocal, or keep, change, flip, or Kentucky chicken fry, whatever you want to think about. So that's going to be 8 over 9 multiplied by 6 over 1, and that's going to be 48 over 9. Now, if you go and take this 48 over 9, what can you simplify this by? Well, you can divide it by 3, and you can divide this by 3. If if you go ahead and do so, you're going to get 16 over 3. All right. I knew you could divide them both by 3 because you can see these factors along the way are both divisible by 3. So when you divide these two fractions, you're going to get 16 thirds. So I'm going to go ahead and write 16 over 3 and just copy down the rest of this problem. All right, next we're going to go ahead and subtract these fractions here. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, when do these two numbers meet for the first time? I think 3 and 18 meet for the first time at 18, so we can leave this one alone. We can just multiply this one by 6 and by 6 on top and bottom. So we go ahead and do that. This is going to be 13 over 18 minus, and if we do times 6 times 6, that's going to be 96 over 18. And if you go ahead and subtract here, well, 18 is going to be on bottom. But if you do 13 minus 96, it's the same thing as 96 minus 13, but it's going to be negative, so it's going to be negative 83. Okay, so what we're going to go ahead and write here is this going to be negative 83 over 18. And we're going to go ahead and add, and we need to write this one as a common denominator with this 18, right? So we can take this one and multiply by 2 and multiply by 2. 49 times 2 is going to be 98, but feel free to, do the multiplication. So we have negative 83 over 18 plus 98 over 18. Now let's go ahead and add these together. Now if you add a negative and a positive, the 18 on the bottom is going to stay the same, but a negative plus a positive, you actually just subtract the number. So 98 minus 83 is going to be 15. So we're looking at a final answer here of 15 over 18. And then just ask yourself, can you simplify this? Well, they have a common factor of 3, or the greatest common factor of 3. So you can say your final answer here is going to be 5 over 6. This right here would be our final answer. So I'm going to write 5 over 6 here and here and say that's going to be our solution. All right, cool. Let's check out number 7. For number 7, let's start with the operation inside the parentheses. So we have 1/3 plus 3/4. When do 3 and 4 meet for the first time? Well, I think that's going to be 12, right? So we go ahead and multiply this one by 4 and by 4. We're going to get 4 over 12 plus, and for this one, let's multiply it by 3 and 3. So that's going to be 9 over 12. If you add these, you're going to get 13 over 12. So let's go ahead and write this down. We have 5/8 minus 13 over 12 plus 2 over 9 divided by 1 over 3. Next, let's take care of this division. So this is a division problem. We should keep, change, and flip and turn it into a multiplication problem. So it's going to be 2 over 9 multiplied by 3 over 1. If you multiply this, you're going to get 6 over 9. And then you can go ahead and divide both the top and bottom by their GCF. And so you're going to simplify this to get 2 over 3. So when you divide these two fractions, you're going to get 2 over 3. So we can go ahead and say it's going to be 5/8 minus 13 over 12 plus, and then we're going to get 2/3 over here. Next, let's go ahead and subtract these two fractions. This one looks like it's going to go negative for a moment. So when do 8 and 12 meet for the first time? The LCD is going to be 24. Let's do times 3 times 3. That's going to be 15 over 24. And for this one, let's do times 2 times 2. So it's going to be minus 26 over 24. Now, the 24 is going to stay the same on the bottom, but 15 minus 26 is the same thing as 26 minus 15, but it's negative. So it's going to be negative 11. So I'm going to go ahead and write here, it's going to be negative 11 over 24. You can put the negative on the top or in the middle. And then I think we can go ahead and make this fraction over 24 as well if we do times 8 times 8. So I think if you do that, you're going to get 16 over 24. All right, when you're adding fractions, we like the common denominators. It's going to stay as 24. But for the numerators, we have negative 11 plus 16, which is the same thing as 16 minus 11. So we're going to get a final numerator of 5. Now, 5 and 24 have nothing in common besides 1. That's their GCF. So our final answer here is just going to be 5 over 24. All right, here's one final problem. For this one, let's start with the parentheses first here. So let's add this 1/2 and 2/3. These common denominators are going to meet at 6 for the first time. So let's do times 3 times 3. If we do that, that's going to end up being 3 over 6. And then for this one, let's do times 2 times 2. So that's going to be 4 over 6. If you add these, you're going to get 7 over 6. So if you add these two fractions, you should get 7/6. Then let's take 3 1/4. Let's take away 7/6. I'm just going to leave it as an improper fraction for now. We have to still take this whole thing and square it and then add 2 afterwards. All right, so it's a good thing we kept this as an improper fraction, because when you square this, we prefer improper fractions anyway. So let's go ahead and figure out, what is 7 over 6 squared? Well, it's 7 over 6 times 7 over 6. So that's going to be 49 over 36 when you multiply. So let's go ahead and write 49 over 36 and then plus 2. All right. I think the easiest thing to do here is going to be turning this into an improper fraction. So if you take this 3 1/4 and you turn it into an improper fraction, that is going to be 13 over 4. Now, if this is 13 over 4 and we're about to subtract this thing from it, we need common denominators. When do 4 and 36 meet for the first time? They meet at 36 for the first time. So you could actually just take this fraction here and multiply it by 9 and 9 on top and bottom. If you multiply 13 by 9, that's going to be 117. If you multiply 4 by 9, that's going to be 36. So I'm going to write here actually times 9 times 9. And you're going to see here that that's going to equal 117 over 36. So that's what this is right here, right? 3 1/4 we said is the same thing as 13 over 4. But if you scale it up and multiply top and bottom by 9, it's the same thing as 117. And this is over 36. And we have minus 49 over 36 plus this 2 at the end here, okay? So we have subtraction here and we have common denominators, so we really just have to do 117 minus 49. So 117 minus the 49 is going to be 68 over this 36. And we still have to add on 2 afterwards. Now if we take this 68 over 36 here and we go ahead and simplify it, 68 and 36. We can divide them both by 2. That'll be 34 and 18. We can divide these by 2 again. That's going to be 17 and 9. So just go ahead and simplifying this, we're going to get 17 over 9 plus 2. And 17 over 9, if you turn into a mixed number, that's going to be 1 and 8/9. If you go ahead and add on 2 to that, 1 and 8/9 added together is going to be, with 2, that's going to be 3 and 8/9. So that right here should be our final answer. Okay, so there you had 8 different practice problems dealing with solving and evaluating some numerical expressions. This one focused a little bit more on doing this with rational numbers though, so having to do some operations with decimals and then with fractions.